On 700 Club Interactive, we use technology to pray for each other and explore topics that matter to you. Watch what God is doing in the world today.
Well, welcome to the show. Tourette's syndrome is a disorder that causes involuntary movements called tics. And these tics can cause havoc for those who suffer with the condition. Singer Jamie Grace knows this all too well. She has struggled with Tourette's since childhood, and it nearly took her career before it began.
Who is this girl trying to be? And who in the world is she trying to please? Suddenly ignited by a spark, I hear my Savior's voice speaking right to my heart. Don't give up now, and don't be afraid. You know who you are, and you got something to say. And those memories are still burning bright. Oh Jesus, how I love the way you're right in my life. However could it be to have a part in your story? Bigger than what I can see. Little old me, oh little old me.
I wanted to be everything growing up. I just had 85 million dreams every 5 minutes. When I got sick, I just kind of stopped dreaming about everything. Nothing was really that important to me, honestly, because I just felt like it was useless to dream. It started off with just like a simple like arm gestures and like leg gestures. And then after even more weeks passed, I started to do this like head twitch thing like that and squeeze my eyes like that and keep them shut for 4 or 5 seconds. And I wanted to try to restrain my body. I realized it was a problem when I couldn't fix it. I was 11 years old, an appointment with my neurologist. They told me I have Tourette's syndrome. It's a neurological, meaning brain condition that causes movements and sounds called tics that are uncontrollable or involuntary. Went into my own world because I hated what I was hearing. I hated hearing the words incurable. I hated hearing the words, you know, treatment and tests and trying medicines. That phrase freaked me out. Tourette's syndrome is not a life-threatening condition by any means, but it's very much a life-altering condition. The tics in themselves were getting increasingly worse. I had an issue with always punching things, a lot of times just hitting my knuckles together. My legs would consistently twitch every 3 or 4 steps, and so I just found myself sitting down all the time. I was also diagnosed later with OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, anxiety. I was trying so many different medicines just to make it work, you know, just to be able to wake up in the morning or just to be able to fall asleep at night or just to be able to get through the day. I was having a hard time with it. You know, I felt like I had been serving Jesus my entire life in church, and yet I prayed and said, God, will you fix me? And he wouldn't do it. I mean, I felt like it was something personal almost. I was just like, seriously, Jesus, I don't know if you're like looking over me, like I don't know what's going on, but I'm facing some big stuff here, and I'm gonna need you to fix it like now. And I was just getting really frustrated, and I just went through this period of my life where I started to doubt him. My granddaddy, my mom's dad, I think he just saw that we were just kind of going through so much and just facing just so many troubles. He just wanted to bring joy. He brought a drum set, and he brought a guitar and an amplifier, and he was like, let's go. And the first song we ever learned how to play was Amazing Love. It sounded awful, but I remember sitting there playing Amazing Love, how could it be that you, my king, would die for me? When I barely believed those lyrics myself. I learned how to play those drums, and I was like, this is incredible. Like, physically, it felt amazing. I mean, I connected with music in a way that was just, I had never connected with anything before. But also, I realized early on that when I really got in the zone, when I really started to play, that I didn't twitch. And I loved that. I felt free. I was 13, 14 years old, and I was realizing that I love to play instruments and I love to share music with other people. And I also was realizing that God was showing me that even though life is hard, life isn't over. I remember just kind of waking up one morning and realizing that those two things went together. Like, maybe I could encourage somebody else. Like, just this whole like kind of concept of encouraging other people became my new favorite thing. I was like, I'm gonna go to YouTube. Like, I gotta tell people on YouTube. And I always say, like, when you serve a big God, it's hard to be surprised when he does big stuff. But at the same time, I was very surprised. And I was 18 or 19 when I got a message on the Twitter that just said, you know, hey, I'd love to talk to you about some music sometime. Your music's great. Signed, Toby Mac. They offered me a deal with GoTo Records. That's kind of how it all started from there. Literally 2 weeks later, we were in the studio recording Hold Me. I do still have Tourette syndrome, but it's a challenge, but it's not as severe as it was when I was a kid. I might go through even more difficult things as I get older. I just have to focus on the things that the Lord has given me. And my favorite Bible verse, I mean, just is Psalms 30, verse 5, and it says, weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. And that is just kind of a reminder to me that we're gonna cry, we're gonna weep, and it may last a whole night. It may last a whole month, sometimes a year. That mourning may last a little bit longer, but God's never failing joy, His never ending joy will always come in the morning.
It is well with my soul.
Jamie found a release, and a release from a horrible disease, Tourette's. How? Through singing. She found that when she sang, and specifically when she sang to the Lord, that all the symptoms disappeared. And then I love her life verse. It's from Psalm 30, where she talks about, you know, weeping will endure for a night, but then joy comes in the morning. Well, let's look at Psalm 30 because it's an important psalm. It's one that's sung at the dedication of the temple. And it begins that way in the first verse, a psalm, a song at the dedication of the house of David. That means it's Solomon's temple, and this was the big psalm that David specifically wrote to be used at the dedication of the temple he designed. Solomon built it. And then it's that double notation at the beginning, a psalm, a song, which means in the Hebrew, it means that there's full instrumentation to this. This is something for the whole assembly of Israel to sing at the dedication of Solomon's temple. And from the Bible, we know amazing things happened then. That when they were singing, the presence of the Lord filled the temple like a cloud. And even the priest couldn't stand to minister anymore. His presence was so heavy, so weighty in that assembly that they couldn't go on. There was so much joy. Now, we know that God uses us as temples now, and we find that from Acts 17. God, who made the world and everything in it, since He is Lord of heaven and earth, does not dwell in temples made with hands. Where does He dwell? He dwells in you. So as we read Psalm 30, let's look at it as what happened to all of us when Jesus rose from the grave. He enabled each one of us to be a temple of the Holy Spirit, each one of us to be a temple for God. And therefore, this Psalm 30 isn't some historical psalm from 3,000 years ago. We can sing it today, and we can dedicate ourselves to His service through this psalm. Now, the other thing with this psalm, it's also prophetic because it foretells that the Messiah will be raised from the dead. And that weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. You know, that wonderful Sunday morning when Jesus rose from the dead. And it foretells of your resurrection, that wonderful day where there's no more tears, there's no more sickness, there's no more loneliness, but we're all with Him for all eternity. Now that will be a wonderful day. And that's worth looking forward to and worth singing about today. Well, that's all the time we have. We leave you with this word from Psalms. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. God bless you.